Hi there, everyone. It's 4 o'clock in New York. The reviews are in for Donald Trump's latest move, his latest vendetta case in the courts, and they are brutal. Even from notable MAGA corners and MAGA-friendly legal eagles, they are balking today at the criminal charges that have been levied against former director of the FBI, Jim Comey, over his beach shell art. And Republicans already deeply, deeply concerned about being wiped out in the midterms and saddled with a president whose approval ratings keep sinking lower and lower and lower, now have fresh fears at voter backlash over a president who seems completely disinterested in their economic concerns will continue to dig this hole he's in as Trump's efforts to prosecute his critics and stamp out free speech in America dominates the headlines coming from the Trump White House. Jonathan Turley, of all people, he's a Fox News fixture. He is a loyal, avid defender of Donald Trump. He actually testified for Donald Trump during the impeachment hearings in 2019. He's even defended Trump's decision to go to war with Iran without consulting Congress first. Now, today, he's saying this, quote, "I would prefer to crawl into one of Comey's conversant shells than write a column supporting him. However, here we are. The fact is that I believe that this indictment is facially unconstitutional, absent some unknown new facts." Turley goes on to say that it is unconstitutional because it tramples on a right we as Americans hold dear, the right to free speech. Jonathan Turley adding this, quote, "In forming this more perfect union, we created the world's greatest protection of free speech in history. It is arguably the most American contribution to our Bill of Rights. Great Britain did not and still does not protect free speech as we do. It comes as a cost. Perhaps Comey is that cost. However, he has a right to write out any hateful thoughts that come to him on his walks on the beach." For the record, Comey says he did not write out anything. He says he was on a walk and he came upon the shells on the beach, took a picture of them, and posted it on his Instagram. Either way, though, what's at stake here are big, huge matters, big, huge American matters of free expression and free speech. And you don't have to accept my word for it or anyone here at this network. You can take it from another MAGA fixture, another regular over on Fox News, Andrew McCarthy, who writes this in the conservative-leaning National Review, quote, "If it's possible, the Trump Justice Department's new indictment of former FBI Director Jim Comey is even more absurd than the previous indictment. That one failed to state a crime. This one fabricates a crime." It is a point echoed by Jim Comey's legal team earlier today. Comey appeared alongside the same attorneys who defended him in his first indictment, Pat Fitzgerald and Jessica Carmichael. He did not enter a plea, but his lawyers said that they would seek to dismiss the case on the basis of vindictive prosecution. It's a strategy that actually succeeded in getting the first Comey case dismissed. One of Comey's attorneys also asked the judge about preserving inflammatory statements made about Comey by the president and officials at the Justice Department. An all-out and politically unpopular assault on free speech in America, thinly disguised as a criminal case against Jim Comey that is only adding to the fissures in Trump's coalition, is where we start today. Former Assistant Special Agent in Charge at the FBI and National Security and Intelligence Analyst for us, Michael Feinberg, is back. Also joining us, former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Obama, now the co-host of Pod Save the World, contributor Ben Rhodes is here, and former Department of Justice pardon attorney Liz Oyer is here as well. Liz, I start with you on today's court appearance. It strikes me, because I think here in year 9, year 10, whatever it is, it feels like year 77, what ways can we articulate both how autocratic and how wildly unpopular and how out of control Trump's Justice Department is acting? And to me, the indictment of Todd Blanche's conduct from Jonathan Turley and Mr. McCarthy is as good a place to sort of illustrate how out of the mainstream of MAGA legal minds they really are.
It's really shocking and chilling and frankly upsetting, Nicole. I mean, it's really, truly shaken a lot of people, including myself, to see how off the rails this Justice Department has come and how quickly under Todd Blanche's leadership, the idea that he has brought this indictment that every lawyer on the planet seems to agree is not based on any legal merit should really shock and disturb everyone in this country. Todd Blanche has demonstrated that his number one priority is to be able to do what Pam Bondi has not succeeded in doing, which is to prosecute Donald Trump's political enemies. And he has demonstrated that he will go to any length under the sun to accomplish that, even if it means blatantly ignoring the legal requirements. One thing that I noticed from his press conference yesterday announcing these charges and from his press conference announcing the charges against the Southern Poverty Law Center is that he is not afraid to mislead the public about what the grand jury process involves, about what the legal standards are for bringing a case and proving guilt. He just openly misstates the law and provides misinformation about how the justice system works in furtherance of his political objectives, which is a very scary thing to have coming from the top official over the Justice Department.
Liz, why do you think he does that? I mean, it's not like this moment won't end. Why do you think he lies so brazenly?
I think that he is totally focused on power. He is in a position of power. He wants to keep that power, and he is essentially drunk with power and making decisions that have no place in an official capacity like the one that he serves. I mean, this indictment, it really is a betrayal of the integrity of the justice system. He is misusing the justice system in a way that should really offend every single American. And the fact that he lies about it, the fact that he says things that are not true, shows that he has no regard for facts or law or evidence. All he cares about is getting a result for his boss, which is just totally improper from the acting U.S. attorney or acting attorney general for the United States.
Ben Rhodes, it is jarring. And just to pull back the curtain on our process here, we gut check ourselves 1,000 times when we present to our audience anything Megyn Kelly says about anything, or Tucker Carlson, or Joe Rogan, because they are not partners, right, in the effort to protect democracy. Double and triple that gut check when it's Jonathan Turley, who testified on behalf of Donald Trump, who has laundered some of Trump's policies over the last 10 years, who before Trump was also a Fox News fixture, and sort of stood at that fork in the road and then threw in all in with Donald Trump. His rebuke is sharper than just about anything I saw on this network or any mainstream outlet over the last 24 hours. What is your theory of the case for why Trump's closest allies in MAGA-adjacent media are condemning this indictment?
Well, Nicole, look, I'd like to believe that there's a substantive reason that people object to this kind of brazen authoritarian persecution of one's enemies. There's a cynical part of me, though, that is looking at the fact that Donald Trump is polling at, 33%, I think is the last number that I saw. I mean, just epically low polling numbers. And those numbers are only going in one direction. Donald Trump has kind of lost the plot, even on what MAGA cares about with his war in Iran. The midterm elections are coming. The next presidential election is around the corner. Donald Trump will not be on the ballot. And what I'm getting at here is that I think people on the right are beginning to look past Donald Trump. They're beginning to realize that, as you just said in your question, this isn't permanent. Todd Blanche, in the best scenario for Todd Blanche, he gets to be in that job for 2.5 more years, and then he has the rest of his life to deal with. So does Jonathan Turley. So does Tucker Carlson, And so I think what some of these people are doing is that they're beginning to realize that the sun is setting on Donald Trump, and therefore his grip on the Republican Party and its associated media and external support organs, he's losing that grip. I think that's what's happening, Nicole, to be honest. I mean, yes, I think there's some sincere policy difference. Tucker Carlson clearly does not like the war in Iran. I'm not suggesting that there's not policy disagreement, but the willingness to be this outspoken, I think, is tied to the fact that people are beginning to look to the future in which Donald Trump is no longer at the center of politics or the center of attention or the center even of MAGA.
I mean, I think to be less sort of elegant about it, the case is absolute garbage. I mean, I think the other thing is, like, this is low-hanging fruit. If you're an actual lawyer, this seems like a good one to say, this is the bottom of the garbage on the bottom of the garbage can. I mean, Ben, it feels like the more unpopular Trump gets, the more desperate and in some ways shocking his conduct is, the more sort of out of the authoritarian closet he gets. But that has this ancillary effect of letting anyone trying to separate themselves from him smack him down before any political opponents can.
That's right. You're exactly right, Nicole. And they're looking for the easy ones where they can show, oh, I was willing to call this out, or I was willing to have a difference. Or, you know, in the case of like Tucker Carlson or Joe Rogan, they're looking at issues where they have an instinct that their own audience doesn't like what Trump's doing, that their own audience is unhappy about high gas prices. So they're responding to their audience. But your point about, look, if some people listen to this and say, well, this sounds great, like, you know, the sun's setting on Trump, it's kind of scary, too, because I do think he's not someone who will accept irrelevance. He's someone who's probably acutely aware that the sand is running through the hourglass of his time as president, and he might get more extreme. He may very well get more extreme in his actions. And what that means is that whether it's, you know, Jonathan Turley or any of these other people, they're going to at some point have to take harder stands because the issue is probably going to be pressed again and again. This isn't the last time Donald Trump's going to try to persecute his political opponents, right? Iran might not be the last war, but whatever the thing, the corruption that we see on a day-to-day basis will get more brazen, right, as they're trying to essentially loot the store before it has new ownership. And so actually, I think it's not going to be as easy as some people might think to just say, I'm going to take a freebie and, you know, come out against this one thing. This is going to keep happening. And the question is going to keep getting called to all these people. And ultimately, it's going to get called to the Republicans in Congress and to the Supreme Court of the United States.